We need David Pagnotta on top of this right now. If this were a hospital, I would say, get us Pagnotta stat from the fourth period. David, wild Sunday morning. We gained access to all the NHL teams' protected player list for Seattle. Help us digest this. Run us through some of the most surprising, some of the most attractive names to the Kraken based on the list.
Yeah, you know what, guys? You're absolutely right. There's a ton of options available for Ronnie Francis. And if he wants to piece together a team that's going to be a clear-cut, playoff contender right out of the gate, he's got the tools to do it. There are so many different players that are available. You guys showed a few of them there, and Carey Price certainly surprising a lot of people that he was, A, willing to waive the no move, and then B, be left unprotected. I think, that might have something to do with Chris Driedger eventually going to be a member of the Kraken, so the Canadians taking a chance there. But some of the other players that surprised me a little bit, you see Yanni Gourde out there, Kaapo Kähkönen, Josh Bailey, Jason Zucker. These are guys that I thought their teams might be holding on to. Now, in Minnesota, they had a decision to make whether it was Cam Talbot or Kähkönen, so they went in this direction. They're taking a chance here. And in Tampa, they have so many different assets that are available to them. I'm more surprised that they went 4 defenseman route versus 3 and 7 forwards, because with 4 defensemen, it only allowed them to protect 4 forwards, Yanni Gourde being one of them. And with Barclay Goodrow going to the New York Rangers, anticipation is that he'll get a deal done with the Rangers after the draft. They might be splitting up that line entirely if Seattle ends up picking Yanni Gourde, because Coleman, also a free agent.
David, the guy next to me, won 3 cups with Lou, so I can't say it too loud. But Josh Bailey had 25 assists the last 2 playoff years. Yeah. I'm glad he's on your list. I would never question Lou Lamoriello, but let's move forward. Vladimir Teresenko has plenty of teams interested in his services, despite the 3 shoulder surgeries. What's the latest on his future?
Well, the medicals appear to be pretty good. All the teams that have checked in on Teresenko seem to be comfortable with his status. Now it was just a matter of trying to get a deal done. They obviously weren't able to do it. A lot of it had to deal with some of the money that some of the teams wanted St. Louis to retain, and they weren't able to make that work. So he becomes available. Some of the stuff that we're hearing now are those teams that were interested in him from St. Louis have now reached out to the Kraken to say, okay, why don't you pick him and then flip him to us? There's some word that Seattle's willing to retain a little bit of money on certain contracts if they are to be flipped. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one kind of unfolds. Now, the option here for the Kraken is either you get Teresenko, keep him,
Getting talked about the most in Buffalo regarding a potential trade, but the Sabres have recently had trade talks escalate with forward Sam Reinhart. Is Reinhart's future still with Buffalo, or will he reside somewhere else next season?
I think, Tony, long-term, it's not with Buffalo. I think the writing is on the wall that at some point Sam Reinhart will be traded from the Buffalo Sabres. It's just a matter of, at this point, when. And he's a restricted free agent with arbitration rights, and he had a heck of a season for them, all things considered. 25 goals on the year for the Buffalo Sabres. He's attracted a lot of interest from a number of teams that are out there. Now, there was some discussion that they were inching closer to a move before the roster freeze kicked in on Saturday. And it seems like those discussions will carry out into the week. We could see something happen as early as Thursday after the roster freeze lifts going into draft weekend. But it certainly seems clear that Sam Reinhart will at some point be moved out of Buffalo. It's not just Eichel. It's not just Ristolainen, but Reinhart as well. His future there in Buffalo is soon going to be coming to an end.
Very interesting. On the topic of movement, the Arizona Coyotes have told teams they are in sell mode, and they're listening to offers to pretty much everyone aside from Jacob Chychrun from Boca Raton, Florida, the same city that gave us Ariana Grande. But I digress. Who could we see dealt from Arizona?
Take your pick. There's a lot of discussion happening right now with the Arizona Coyotes. Bill Armstrong is very active and busy speaking, and has been in speaking to a number of different teams around the league for some of his players. Darcy Kemper has 1 year left on his deal. The anticipation and expectation is that this goaltender will be moved at some point this offseason. He's got a $4.5 million cap hit. Arizona, to a certain extent, is willing to retain some money on a couple deals. It sounds like Kemper is one of them. Phil Kessel being another. Now, he's got $1 million left on his deal after his bonus was paid out, but his cap hit is still 6.8. So that's where the big deterrent is for the most part. But if they retain half, it would certainly help facilitate a deal. But there are other pieces, Tony, on this team that so many different clubs are talking about. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's name has continued to be discussed around the National Hockey League, and it's certainly not just Boston and Vancouver. There are a number of teams, my understanding, that have engaged in discussions, including Seattle, even though he's protected, with Arizona about OEL. There seems to be a bit of a breakup here that's going to happen at some point between their captain and the club at $8.25 million on a cap hit. They're looking to move that out. The other guy to certainly look at, well, we do have guys like Dvorak and Clayton Keller also out there. Conor Garland is just a player that a lot of people expect to be moved. There haven't been any contract talks since the end of the season between the two sides, and everything is looking like he's going to be dealt at some point, perhaps around draft weekend.